Hi, I'm Eric. Today we have this Toyota Tundra in the bay, so I can show you how you can add the convenience of remote start to your truck with StartX. With the exception of one ground connection, this kit is plug and play. It's compatible with 2010 to 2017 Toyota Tundra. And using just a few basic tools, we're confident that you can complete the installation in the comfort of your own garage in one afternoon. Let's take a look at what's included in the box. The module, our vehicle-specific plug-in harness, a pry tool, a warning sticker that our vehicle is equipped with remote start, and the instruction manual. The tools we're going to use on today's installation are a drill with a 10mm socket, the pry tool, and a long zip tie and electrical tape. Let's take a closer look at what's included in our vehicle-specific harness packaging. Our main vehicle connection harness has many T connectors. One is an OBD2 T, which connects below the dash. One is our ECU T harness, which connects to the left of the steering column. One is our key sense harness, which connects under the steering column. We have a long lead that connects to the T harness for our TPMS module, which connects on the passenger side of the vehicle. The rest of the connectors are for the remote start module. We have a large gauge harness which goes to our ignition cylinder. The large connector plugs into our module. The ground connector gets connected to a bolt under the dash. A pin switch is provided, not needed for the installation. Most vehicles are equipped with a pin switch which stops the vehicle from remote starting if the hood is open. And a number of zip ties are provided for securing the module and the wiring up under the dash. Before we begin our installation, we're going to disconnect the vehicle's negative battery terminal. Typically, this requires a ratchet with a 10mm socket. Your vehicle may require a different size socket. Loosen the bolt, then slide the connector off. It may help to wiggle it while removing it. Be sure the cable is away from the terminal. First, we'll remove the door sill trim panel. We can use our pry tool to pry up along the edge to remove it. Next, we can remove the lower kick panel plastic cover. There's a small plastic fastener that screws on here in the back. Simply unscrew it by hand to remove it. This will allow us to remove the panel by pulling it toward the center of the truck. This gives us access to the two 10mm bolts that we need to remove from the bottom of the panel below the steering column. Now we can remove this whole plastic panel below the steering wheel. By pulling toward the rear of the vehicle, we can use the supplied nylon pry tool to carefully separate the panels. We want to be careful to leave the airbag in place while we remove the larger panel around it. If we unplug this small connector on the right side of the panel, we can get better access to the connectors in the dash. Inserting the key into the ignition and turning it to the on position allows us to rotate the steering wheel so we can access the Phillips screw on the side. Now remove that screw. Then rotate the wheel to the opposite side so we can remove the Phillips screw on that side. Now we want to separate the two halves of the steering column cover. Sometimes we can simply pull down on the lower half. Lowering the latch under the steering wheel will make it easier to pass the lower section over the lever. Directly behind the key cylinder, there's an 8-pin harness with large gauge wire. This is the ignition harness. Press in on the latch tab and pull the connector out. Now we can take our ignition T-harness and plug the original connector into our harness. Then plug the other connector into the OEM location at the key cylinder. Tuck the harness into the dash. Route the free connector through the dash behind the metal brackets to the lower section. The metal ring terminal on the black wire needs to be connected to a solid ground. We will remove one of these 10mm bolts. Route the wire up behind the metal dash bracket. Pass the ring terminal around the bolt and reinstall it. Now we have our T-harnesses to connect. We're going to start with these two harnesses first. Pass the cables up behind the metal dash brackets to the ECU module. Now we'll unplug the top white connector from the ECU module. Plug it into our T-harness. Then plug the other connector back into the OEM location. Now we can connect our 8-pin key-sense harness. Remove this lower connector in the ECU and plug it into our T-harness. Then plug the other connector back into the factory location. We now have our OBD2 connection here at the bottom of the dash. Using a flathead screwdriver, we can press in on the tabs on each side of the OBD2 connector. Pressing on the front of the connector while releasing these tabs will free the connector from the mount bracket. Plug this connector into our OBD2 T-harness. Then snap the other connector into the original location. Now on the passenger side of the truck, below the glove box, there's a small trapezoid-shaped piece of plastic. If we carefully insert our nylon pry tool here, we can pry this panel toward the rear of the truck. Then, while pulling lightly down on this tab, using a flathead screwdriver, we can press the latch tabs forward to the front of the truck to release the panel. There are 4 tabs in total. Now we can route the connector over from the other side of the truck. Using some electrical tape, tape the TPMS T-harness to a long zip tie. This will allow us to pass the cable through the front of the lower portion of the dash over to the passenger side. From the passenger side of the truck, reach up under the far right side of the glove box. There's a wire covered in yellow loom. That's the airbag wire. Just above that wire, there's a small module with a white 12-pin connector. Unplug this connector and plug it into the TPMS T-harness. Then, with the connector to the left, toward the center of the truck, plug the other connector into the OEM location. Now, before we can program the module, we do need to reconnect the truck's negative battery terminal. Now with the battery reconnected, we can begin the programming sequence. Press and hold the programming button. While still holding it down, plug in the large white connector. The LEDs will cycle. Allow them to cycle at least once, and when only the red and blue LEDs are illuminated, release the programming button. Then insert the remaining connectors into the module. Press and release the programming button twice. The red and blue LEDs should flash. Then, using the black master key, not a gray valet key, insert the key into the ignition and turn it to the on/run position. The blue and red LEDs will flash rapidly. When the blue LED is flashing, the programming is complete. Now we can turn the key to the off position and remove it from the ignition. Now we can use the supplied zip ties to secure the module behind the dash. Bring the module and the wires high up into the dash as possible to keep them safe and secure. We can bundle up some of the extra wiring and secure it with zip ties. We can pass a zip tie through the mounting holes on the end of the module and secure it to the factory wiring. We can also use additional zip ties to secure the wiring in the same way. Trimming the excess off the zip ties keeps the installation as tidy as possible. Then, carefully reinstall the lower section of the steering column and snap it together with the top half. Then reinstall the 2 Phillips screws. Now reinstall the lower dash panel, being sure to reconnect any plugs that were disconnected during disassembly. Align the clips with the holes in the dash and snap the panel forward into position. Reinstall the 2 10mm bolts. Reinstall the kick panel. And its plastic fastener. Its plastic fastener can simply be pressed back on. Then reinstall the door sill trim panel. Line up the tabs and click it into place. You may give it a few heavier taps to get it to fully seat into place.
And that completes the installation of our StartX remote starter on our Toyota Tundra. Now we just press the factory lock button 3 times and we can remote start our truck. We hope you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching.